what's up guys? Welcome back to Retro Pop Planet. Now when Death Stranding came out, it blew me away. I love Kojima games. I have been a huge fan of the Metal Gear series, and when he branched out on his own and we heard that there was going to be a new game from him, I got super excited. Now I didn't really know what to expect, and walking into it, it was very strange when I first started. I of course was familiar with Norman Reedus from Walking Dead and Boondock Saints, but the story just is very engaging and it grabs you from the very beginning, and it has this sort of lonely feeling to it. The environments are super awesome, very sort of, you can feel yourself in these worlds. They're so well constructed. But it also, again, is Kojima, so it's very strange. So when I did my Cyberpunk series, I got a lot of comments from people asking me what's next, when my next custom is gonna be. I did have an idea from the very beginning that I was gonna do Death Stranding. And I really wanted to use these Final Faction figures, which you get from the Dollar Tree. And the reason I like the Final Faction figures is because I think the base plastic is really cool. I mean, these things look like they would have probably cost $15, $17 if they were at like a Target or a Walmart. They're really well crafted, they're super detailed, and even the paint job that comes right out of the packaging is pretty good. They're cheap enough if you want to buy the entire set, it's going to run you about $5 to $6, and you can repaint them to whatever you want them to be. And some of them are interchangeable. You can take off the 1 or 2 screws that are on the back, flip around some of the different body parts, and create your own character. They don't all line up, so you do have to kind of test fit some of these things. But I thought for this video I would actually maybe try to do a little bit more narration so you can kind of see through my process. The reason it took me so long to get around to this project is that the characters in Series 1 didn't look anything like Norman Reedus. But then I started thinking to myself, we already got his story. And the other really awesome thing that we learn while we're playing the game is that you're in this interconnected world, and there are a lot more porters out there than just you, than just Norman Reedus' character. So I thought I would kind of create my own porter using a combination of different parts that look like the uniform from the game, but then give him a different head. The other thing that was a little bit challenging that I was waiting on is that I really wanted to have a timefall hood. Unfortunately, none of the characters in Series 1 were hooded characters. There were no ninjas, for example. And the biggest challenge that I had with my Cyberpunk figures is that I had to use a lot of sculpting material just to get all the details that I wanted. And it took a lot of time to do Johnny Silverhand and Atom Smasher. So I wanted to make it a little bit easier on myself, but then I made it hard on myself. This project I've been working on the side for probably 3 months, starting in the beginning of November of 2021. And in November, I found out that Series 2, Wave 2 had come out, and they had a character named Torn who has a hood. And the hood actually is interchangeable. It actually fits with a lot of the other different body styles. So I used the flying character, which has a really cool set of glasses that I thought would look pretty good in the Death Stranding universe. And I didn't have to repaint the head, which was great. So what I want to do now is actually try to do a voiceover so you can see my process, because every little different thing had to be completely thought out as I was going along, including the base. I knew I wanted to do something related to the game, just wasn't really quite sure exactly what I wanted to do. And I don't have a ton of experience with bases. But without further ado, let's get to my Death Stranding custom collectible.
So here's my bag from Dollar Tree, and I picked up a couple of the new figures, Torn, Scope, Churro, and a Ruck from Series 1 because I wanted his suitcase backpack, and then I eventually picked up another one just for the backpack. Torn is the new hooded figure. The other new character, Scope, comes with molded holsters and 2 guns, and I thought this would look cool on the final build. Here's one of my parts bins with creepy dissected figures, but I also have a steel torso and a head that I want to use for kit bashing. I like the head mold, and the torso has straps which are reminiscent of Sam Porter Bridges. There are a couple of screws on the back, and then these body parts align pretty well. The tricky bit though is fitting them all back together and rescrewing them. It's kind of difficult with just my hands. These figures have standard 5-point articulation, so I won't have much posability, but that's okay, because a regular standing pose will work well for the base that I'll create at the end. I'm masking off the head and using regular Rust-Oleum flat black primer for the rest of the body. This part was super annoying. I'm not sure if it's because I sprayed outside in 30-degree weather or because the can was almost empty, but this paint took almost 3 days to cure. I went to my local games workshop to find some painting ideas, and the clerk introduced me to their layered paint for use on Space Marines. First, I'll apply an iron breaker layer. I'm also filling in some of the seams with modeler's putty, which I'll also sand and paint. As you can see, I'm switching between painting the iron breaker and also using Citadel black. The stupid black primer is still sticky, and coating a top layer is helping it cure. So here's a special top coat application. I'm using a contrast Ultramarines blue layered over top the iron breaker, and it gives the Porter suit a really rad tech fit. I'm not trying to goop the blue on, instead I'm painting and letting it run into all of the seams. I may have added 2 coats total, but didn't want to drown out the undercoat. You can also see the manufacturing writing on the seat of his pants. Normally I would sand that out, but it's going to be covered in my final build. I wasn't sure at first how to add the pinstriping to the sleeves and the legs. I then decided to use a white Uniball paint marker, and I picked up 2 Sharpies from the store, a red and a blue, to complete the look. The figure is so small that you're just looking for a hint of detail, and I think it actually comes out pretty well. I have a couple of stock game footage photos that I'm using for references, so you'll see me add bits of flair here and there and detail with black and yellow. Here's the other ruck that I picked up. I purchased him solely for the extra backpack, which I'll glue to the existing one that I already have. I also grabbed this generic army guy. His weapon is similar to the in-game weapon that you carry. The Final Faction ones are just too sci-fi heavy for this build. As I'm adding details here, I will confess that I haven't played Death Stranding since it came out in 2019. I almost platinumed him then, but haven't picked up any of the director's cut versions. I did see on Twitter that Kojima is planning the PC release for March 2022. Here I am now, trimming the tab and gluing the backpacks together to make a couple of suitcases, and they line up perfectly. My camera won't focus, but I grabbed these Make It blocks at the Dollar Tree. One particular branch shape reminds me of the shoulder harnesses used in the game. I decided not to add bags because that would unbalance the figure, but trimmed them down and painted them. They give him a much more rugged adventure appearance. I have this extra piece from a model that I made recently, and it's the perfect size to use as the back frame. Kit bashing is fun because sometimes these objects just transform themselves into differing uses. I honestly can't remember all of the different weapons that I used in the game, but again, I'm using reference photos to paint out this gun. I'm using Testors oil-based model paints for most of the gun because the gold and silvers are much more metallic-y and vibrant than acrylic paint. Here's where it gets weird, guys. I need to make a bridge baby, right? Originally, I planned to use a plastic baby from a party store. Think Mardi Gras king cake, but even those aren't to scale. I scrapped that idea and decided to use clay to make the BT holder case. I purchased Fimo bakeable clay in neon orange, and I'm terrible at sculpting, by the way, but this was small enough to not give me too much of a headache. And once it was baked and painted, I was very pleased with the result. The Citadel Nuln oil is a great wash to give the appearance of oil and grease. It's also awesome for adding depth and contrast because it gets into all of those cracks and creases. Okay, you see me use my generic sticker method in other videos, and I'm using it again here. Basically, I find several logo images online, transfer them in varying sizes into Microsoft Word, and then print. It's super easy. You don't need any special materials. And once they're cut to size, I glue them down and then add a thin layer of clear Mod Podge over top to seal them in. Timefall is one of the most unique features of Death Stranding. I don't want to go too over the top here, but I'm adding some Timefall rust detailing primarily to the metal objects, suitcase, frame, etc. I printed a few more Bridges logos also because I noticed that there are badges on Norman Reedus' legs. From the Make It Blocks bag, I found this flower, which I thought I could repurpose into a BT sensor. This was part of the build I was dreading the most. I ended up cutting it down and adding a piece of armature wire and using thin scale plastic styrene to construct the fins. After that, I painted them and I was pretty happy. One of the last details before I started constructing the base was to use this craft leather to build a small satchel for his front torso, a support brace for the rear cargo carrier, and thin black leather to create the appearance of carrying straps by connecting to the molded plastic torso. I've been winging this build from the beginning, but now I'm in unfamiliar territory land. I'm using basic supplies that I found at my local craft store for the wooden base. Because it was still winter at the time of this part of the build, meaning there was snow on the ground, I purchased these pre-painted rocks. In the packaging was this foam, which had the right texture for soil, and I used a mixture of Mod Podge and paint to create a primer base coat. From here, I'm adding different colored washes to create that black soil look visible in the game. From all accounts, the inspiration was Iceland. I went to Iceland in 2014 and have a bunch of my own reference photos that helped me create that mossy, loamy, wet ground cover look. I know why Kojima chose Iceland as inspiration for the terrain, because it feels like you're on another planet when you're there. You won't regret your decision to travel there when you get a chance to go. I'm adding different layers of crafting grass and moss to create texture. I'm going to use this 2-part clear resin to install the figure onto the base permanently. I want to give the appearance that he's standing in a puddle after a timefall. Unfortunately, either due to the resin's age or I'm not sure what, it didn't dry clear. Off camera, I used a variety of different products to give it a murkier, dark standing water look. I was ultimately happy with the results, but frustrated by the process.
All right, guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. That was so much fun for me to do. And I hope this gives you an idea of how you can take these characters and create your own universe of figures with them. So I'm interested to see if you guys have done any of your own, so please feel free to leave me links if you have YouTube pages or whatnot, and give me ideas for future characters that you'd like me to do. I have another one in mind. It could be just as complex as this one, but I think it'll be equally cool. And I definitely want to work on a little bit more clay sculpting, which I don't have a ton of experience with, as I mentioned previously. So anyway, guys, if you like this video, please leave me a comment. Please give me a like. Likes help me out so much on this channel. And feel free to subscribe, and maybe it won't take me another year to get to my next custom collectible. Thanks for watching, guys.